Hi, sorry that we are coming up with a video after a very long time. As the lockdown is opening up, things have kept me busy with work and therefore I couldn't make a video as earlier as I wanted to. But I am coming up today with a very informative and interesting topic known as good practices. In the time of the novel coronavirus, many good practices are being followed as is without me telling you, but this has been on my blog for a very long time and I thought that I should impart the knowledge to those who are interested, and it might be of immense help in otherwise keeping you healthy or healthier than you normally would be. So what is the unit of life? The unit of life is a living cell, and the human body consists of 37.2 trillion cells. Earlier, while I was studying, we were told that sometimes this number was as low as 10 trillion, sometimes as high as 100 trillion. But a recent study has determined the more or less exact number of an adult grown human being to be 37.2 trillion cells. Remember that a trillion has 12 zeros after the 1. So there are 37.2 trillion cells, and there are other organisms like bacteria, viruses, fungi, which live inside us and outside us, and these could number 3 to 10 times more than our own cells. So which means that the total number of organisms or cells that a human person carries along with him is anywhere between 125 trillion to maybe 400 trillion. Not all of them are beneficial. Some bacteria are harmful to us, but quite a lot of them are good bacteria, good funguses, which help us do a lot of functions in our body. So the first good practice that I want to talk to you about is breathing, and there are two aspects to it. In the video on metabolism, I had mentioned that a yoga guru once told me that breathing should be slow and deep. So whenever you breathe, you must do it slowly and deeply. But it is something which is very difficult to remember in the pressures and stresses of day-to-day life. But whenever you remember this, try and take slow, deep breath, hold your breath for some time and exhale very, very slowly. The reason why this is beneficial is that you survive on oxygen. You take in oxygen, your lungs transfer it to the bloodstream, and the bloodstream which is coming there delivers CO2 to the lungs, which has to be exhaled out. I'll tell you briefly how this happens. So every cell has, more or less every cell has mitochondria, which are our power plants. So in the cell there is this organelle called mitochondria, where the Krebs cycle, I've spoken about this also, or the TCA cycle takes place, which converts our nutrients into energy. So during this process of reactions, metabolic reactions, or the Krebs cycle as we call it, oxygen is taken in and H2O, water, and CO2, carbon dioxide, are thrown out, expelled. That's how oxygen is beneficial for us, because it helps you in the conversion of energy. This process requires oxygen, and every time you breathe deeply, hold your breath for some time, that extracts all of the oxygen from your breath, and it is much more beneficial than normal, shallow, very rapid breathing. Then there are times, the other aspect of breathing, there are times when you need to hold your breath. This is very important part of living. For example, when you are walking on the streets, I used to walk a lot on the streets and would very frequently come across a dead rat or a dead animal, or even these large open garbage cans kept on the road, and you can from a distance get that distinct dirty smell. So I have seen that many people keep a hanky and then continue to breathe through the hanky, but that's not going to filter out the bad stuff. The best way for you would be to hold your breath when you observe something like this in your path, and keep it held for as long as possible, and then slowly release the breath that you are holding, as when you have passed this carcass or the dead mouse or cat or lizard or whatever, and after you have gone at least about 10-15 meters away, you release your breath and then you start breathing again. The other thing that I do is that when I use any aerosol products like perfumes or deodorants, I stop breathing. Why? Because aerosols, the pressurizing elements apart from the perfume in the bottle which give you that spray, aerosols contain known carcinogens. Carcinogens are those compounds which are known to us to cause cancer. So there are many known carcinogens which are present in the aerosols, and it is always a good idea that when you are applying perfume or deodorant on your body, stop breathing, because that spray is not only where you intended it to be, but all around in that small space around where it has been sprayed. Ideally, don't spray it on your body, spray it on the clothes that you're going to wear, and then you wear them. But even if you prefer to put it on your body, at least remember to stop breathing. This is very important. The third thing is, when you are putting some talcum powder, for those of you who use powder, remember that powder is also made from something called dolomite, that is a limestone, and it is crushed dolomite is used in almost everything that we consume, from soap to toothpaste to many of our food items, your detergent powders, even your talcum powder is nothing but dolomite. So when you are applying or putting some talc on yourself, when you shake that can, some of it falls on the intended area, but a lot of it is floating in the air around you, and it's a good idea to do that while you have stopped breathing. Move away from that place and then start to breathe all over again. Another thing is water. Water is something everybody requires. It's a very good thing, and you should have at least 7-8 glasses in a day. If you can have more, it's so much the better. But make sure that you do not drink anything, at least my rule is 30 minutes before or after a meal. Why? Because our stomach contains hydrochloric acid. So this is the acid which breaks down the incoming food into its various nutrients, and some of the proteins, some of the carbohydrates get absorbed, digested in the stomach itself. When you drink water, it tends to dilute that acid, and by the time the balance is again restored by putting in more acid, it takes some time. So it's a good practice that while the process of digestion is going on in the stomach, you should not disturb the contents, the acidic contents of the stomach. I personally prefer to have water at room temperature, not cold. But there are times in the summers when you really feel like having cold water, and that is fine. But if you can, water at room temperature is always better. Another practice that I follow is something that I learned from my elders, my grandparents. I never take a shower immediately after consuming any food. So because the digestive process is on, and having a shower normally, which means having cold water on your body, tampers with the thermogenic effect of food, which means that the digestive process itself creates a lot of heat in the reactions that take place, and we interfere with that thermogenic process by putting water on our body and reducing the temperature. So it's a good practice not to take a shower immediately after food. Wait at least 45 minutes. Also, another good practice has to do with the problem of adulteration, especially in this subcontinent. So whenever you have purchased a bottle of water and finished it, don't throw the bottle as it is. Nowadays, of course, we are under the Swachh Bharat, we are trying to keep our country clean. But even if you were to dispose of that bottle, either tear it, crumple it, disfigure it completely so that it cannot be reused. Same thing with packets of food, bottles of perfume, even the talcum powder that we spoke about. I never dispose them, container as well as the cap, together. So if I have to throw my empty perfume bottle, I would throw the bottle in one bin and the cover in another bin or on a different day, so that whoever finds it cannot find them together and reuse it to fool somebody else. So this is something which is your contribution can help another person. Please do take care of these things. Finally, I come to what we have all learned in these novel corona virus COVID lockdown days, that it's very important to cover your mouth with your hands, with your arms, or with a cloth, a napkin, handkerchief, whatever you are carrying. If nothing else, maybe a paper napkin if you can find one, when you cough or sneeze. Don't laugh, but I will share the link to a study which will show you that a sneeze has the potential to push the air up to a distance of 10 kilometers. And COVID has taught us all that we must wear a mask and keep ourselves protected. So even if there was no COVID and we did use that, at least at times when we were coughing or sneezing, it would help. As I told you, that the human microbiome of 125 to 400 trillion cells is not just within the body, it is outside the body also. So whenever you cough or sneeze, you are contributing some of your bacteria and some of your pathogens to the people who are around you, and therefore it's always a good practice to cover your mouth when you are coughing or sneezing. While on the subject of the coronavirus, let me tell you my own beliefs. According to me, the mortality rate of this virus is very, very, very low. Let's look at the case of India, which is close to 18 lakh cases, and some 37,000 people have died of the virus. Whereas it is a known fact that the number of infections, the actual number of infections could be 10 times higher than the declared number because of the low testing still going on. So if you have 17 lakh cases and the actual cases are something like 1.7, 1.8 crores and 37,000 people have died, that's a loss of life, no doubt, and that's very regrettable. But it is a very, very low number, and the best way to fight it or fight it out is to have a good immune system. Even if your immunity is working at 50% efficiency, you are strong enough to take care of this virus, and there is no need to panic. And the two best ways to keep your immunity boosted are diet and exercise. Exercise is ever so important in keeping your immune system working, healthy, and protecting you at all times. Hope you enjoyed this video. As I get newer content, I will keep coming back with more good practices. Thank you for watching. Do subscribe, share and like our channel. Thank you very much.